Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to Clapback Culture. I'm your host, Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald. And as y'all can see, Julia's taking the night off, man. So shout out to Julia. I hope she feels better soon. But for tonight, it's just me and y'all. So this is a special treat for y'all. I got my guy Cuddy in the back as always. We're going to have Cuddy pop out for a few topics, but Cuddy likes to work the back. So we ain't going to force Cuddy to do too much. But we're going to have some fun tonight. So if you're here, please pull up, hop in the comments. I definitely want to lean on some of y'all. We're going to have to do this together tonight. Andrew, I see you pulling up. Leon, I see you pulling up. Catherine, I see you out there. We are going to make this a different kind of show. I got the topics. I got the juice. I'm going to give it to y'all. But please make sure you respond. Let's just have a community conversation tonight. So with that, I'm ready. Y'all ready? Looks like y'all's ready. So let's do it. So coming out the gate, man, we got robots taking over the Beijing Olympics. Can you run the video, Cuddy?
Meet the robots serving at the 2022 Winter Olympics. China has vowed to safely host the February Games in Beijing. These guys are part of that effort to ensure social distancing for athletes and guests. Here in the main press centre, journalists arriving early for the Games were greeted by something of a novelty. Instead of canteen staff, food arrives from the ceiling, and even food like burgers are being prepared electronically. It doesn't stop there. Elsewhere in the media centre, a robotic arm is serving up cocktails. It can make over a dozen recipes and takes just 70 to 90 seconds to measure, shake and serve. Human bartenders are also on duty to lend a hand if that antiquated human touch is ever needed. It may not be service with a smile, but robot room service is at least social distancing friendly. This is one of the official Olympic hotels in Beijing. Guests type a PIN code in to access food. Another attraction at the press centre, a robot serving up ice cream. To buy the sweet treat, one must go to the cashier to pay first and get a receipt with a QR code. Machines can turn out plain vanilla with options to add toppings like Oreo cookies or chocolate chips and different flavour sauces.
No. I'm not down for more robots. And first of all, that last machine, that was a vending machine. Okay. We can have vending machines give us ice cream without the vending machine needing to have a humanoid face. Like my vending machine doesn't need to have eyes and it doesn't need to smile at me. And as far as robots preparing my food, that's a microwave. Leon, no, Leon, you don't love it. And on a side note too, man, Leon sent me a pretty cool story about some more robot stuff, about AI, and we're going to get to that next week. But thank you, Leon, for sending that our way. But as far as like these social distance robots, look, they're doing this right now because we have the pandemic and they have a reason that they can get away with it. But trust me, if we can get away with paying robots to do jobs that typically humans have to do, humans are not going to have these jobs. And I hate to be that they're coming for our jobs guy, but these robots is coming for our jobs. I mean, this is the same way I feel when I go to the grocery store and they got the self-checkout. I hate self-check at the grocery store. When I go and I buy my groceries, I feel like part of the reason why my food gets marked up is because I know the grocery store got to pay bills. They got to pay the utility bills, and they also have to pay the worker. So yeah, mark us up. But now they're trying to roll out this self-check, make me bag my own groceries, and I ain't seeing no difference in the prices. I'm seeing less employees in the store. I'm doing more work as the shopper, yet the prices have all stayed the same. And that's the same thing that I'm thinking when I look at these robots that are doing all of this work during the Olympics. You got your robot doing the room service. You got robots preparing the food. You got robots delivering the food. This isn't going to make any of those services cheaper. This is just going to allow companies to make money hand over foot still consumers are still going to get hit, and we're not going to have any more customer service, man. I'm not really down with that, man. Oh, okay. And look, Catherine be coming with the heat. Hey, please, Cuddy, put this last comment by Catherine up there because I think Catherine is on to something. Look, I want a person to check me out. Dirty little secret. It takes a lot of people to maintain and keep tech. And I think yes, to a degree there is, but it takes less people to maintain the technology than what it takes to have people actually in the store. Thus, there is a way for companies to make more money because you got to look at this with the robots that you're seeing in that clip from Beijing. You got restaurants, you got robots running the whole restaurant. They're making the food, they're making the drinks, they're delivering the food, they're delivering the drinks, they're taking the order, they're your hostess, taking you to your seat, they're doing all of these things. Once those robots are there, they're there. You don't have to give robots a salary. You don't have to pay health benefits for robots. Robots are not about to call out sick ever. Robots don't need maternity or paternity leave ever. Like, it's just, no. Thank you, Mama Walden. I'm in the same place. Cuddy is in the back talking about self-check is the GOAT. Cuddy, you're tripping, bro. Self-check is not the GOAT, man. They're hustling us. They are hustling. Have you been in a Walmart lately? Walmart has no more employees. There's no employees anywhere in Walmart. You got these super long self-check lines. It takes forever. I'm not a self-check professional. I don't like this. I do not like this. I love to see people. I want human interactions, man. When I go to my hotel, I want to be able to chop it up with the room service dude. I want to know, like, where's it popping at? Concierge is okay, but they don't know nothing. I ain't never in my life had nobody in concierge tell me where I can go buy some weed. You need a person for that. And I'm telling you, that bellhop that's bringing your bag to your room, man, that bellhop knows where the cush is. The bellhop know where the party's at. You need that human touch, man. I'm a human. I'm all for humans. Keep humans employed. All right, let's move on. This next story, man, it's a little more serious. We talked about this last week. You know, we had those 3 teenage boys, 2 brothers and their friend. Their stepfather allegedly sexually abused their 9-year-old little sister, and they ended up killing him. Well, people, and I mean large amounts of people, like I'm looking at my notes, and my notes say that 200,000 people have signed this petition to free those boys. But as you see right here, yo, it's not even at 200,000 anymore. This thing has grown. It's past, it's almost at 500,000 people. And just a quick refresher, and you can let that down, Cuddy. I appreciate you. But so the people were calling for the release of Alexandro and Christian Trevino. Forgive me if I get that wrong. We got Juan Melendez. 2 of these boys are 18. One of them is 17. The oldest brother is being charged with capital murder. The other 2 are being charged with murder. And, you know, it's a really interesting case because while in the court of public opinions, their stepfather was already accused of sexual abuse. As a matter of fact, it's come out and the police have confirmed their stepfather had an active warrant for his arrest for another little girl that he had molested. The problem that these boys face, and, you know, last week when we talked about this, I didn't have all these details, but when they first heard what happened, the 2 brothers confronted their stepdad at home. That confrontation led to a fight. The stepdad leaves the house. The oldest brother, the one charged with capital murder, Alexandro, he chases the stepdad out of the house. Lil bro follows him, and their friend Juan ends up in the area. They catch him up the street, fight him again, beat him up again, and then they leave. Then there was a third attack where they beat him up again. Allegedly, this time they used knuckle dusters. They beat him unconscious, loaded him in the back of a truck, and left him in a field. And police are now saying that they believe that the stepfather, his last name is Quintanilla. I don't want to get that wrong, but the stepfather, they believe that he was alive when he got dropped off in that field. And I understand why close to 500,000 people are signing that petition, but unfortunately, these boys will probably never get out of prison. I mean, it's the court of law. It's not the court of public opinion. It's wrong what happened to their little sister, but the fact that they fought the stepdad 3 times over the course of one night, like they fought him at home, he left, they followed him, they fought again, he left, they followed him again, fought him again, knocked him out, left him in a field where he bled to death. Apparently, it's like they're going to go away. They're going to go away for a long time. So it's a really unfortunate situation. We just wanted to bring it back because there were some more details that emerged. And, last week, I feel like Julia and I definitely felt for these boys. I mean, the 2 17-year-olds and an 18-year-old who are looking at spending the rest of their lives behind bars is sad, no matter how you slice it. But, it's the law. And I just don't see any wiggle room. But if any of y'all got anything to say, anything to add, please drop it in the chats. But I think we're going to move on from that one. Mike Pence is back in the news. Mike Pence and your boy Trump. Cuddy, can you run the overlay? So Pence's right-hand man reportedly dished to the January 6th committee. This one is interesting to me. So what we got here, we got Mark Short, and I'm reading my notes, y'all. It's just me, so I got to bring the notes today. But Mark Short is the chief of staff to former Vice President Mike Pence, and he testified before the January 6th committee. And while at this time it's still unclear what he said specifically, it was quote unquote lengthy. So it looks like he was in there singing like a canary. So the committee, as we all know, they've been investigating former President Trump's efforts to overturn the election for months now. And, when all of this unfolded, man, Trump wanted Mike Pence to refuse to certify the election results. And Mike Pence said no. A lot of the MAGA heads, man, these MAGA people, they were really, really mad at Mike Pence. As a matter of fact, there's footage on January 6th of some of those rioters, and they were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." So they were mad. And Leon, that's a great point. I do not know where this guy was a year ago, but it's good that he's here now because, man, look, somebody has got to do some talking. And, Axios has actually reported that Mark Short has been very cooperative, and he showed up not only to testify, but he had some documents, he had some memos. But the important thing that I take from Mark Short coming and testifying is the fact that the January 6th committee isn't forcing anyone to testify. It's not like they're out here handing out subpoenas and forcing people to come to court and talk. They're asking people, they're trying, to work behind the scenes to convince people to come and testify. But these committees, man, they don't force you. So Mark Short came and talked all on his own. So it definitely makes sense that he would be there to spill the tea. I mean, why volunteer information if you're not going to give anything that's valid? The question that I have is, what does this really mean? I mean, at this point, I feel like in public opinion, we all know how we feel, but Trump is going to run again. And we know that Trump is going to run again. And I'm mulling it over in my head. And it's like, who's going to beat this guy? Who's going to beat Trump in 2024? Because we saw what happened on January 6th. We seen Trump's comments as things unfolded. He let his homies run up and do whatever they wanted to do. He hasn't really condemned them for anything that they did. As a matter of fact, in our next story, we're going to go visit former President Trump because he was in front of some cameras and he had some interesting things to say. But before we get there, it's just, I mean, the Democrats aren't really helping themselves right now, man. Like coming off of Trump, I mean, a lot of us would agree it wasn't the best presidency, man. Like he was a horrible guy. And the Democrats had an opportunity to come in right now and turn everything around. But look at where we are right now, man. We're like, with COVID is still here. It's still rampant. We got the Omicron, and even though Omicron hasn't really hit people as hard with the symptoms, it's still running a toll on our economy. Like we're like all of the problems that persisted because of COVID, all of those problems are still with us today. We haven't really moved on as a society from the point when Trump left to being this far into Joe Biden's presidency. And on top of like the COVID stuff, I mean, when you look at the campaign that Joe Biden ran and you look at all of the promises that he's made, I mean, he hasn't delivered on any of those promises. So it's like, what are we really doing here? I mean, I just seen a news clip today about Joe Biden saying a bunch of nice things about Mitch McConnell. And I don't want to quote Biden here because I don't have it in front of me, but it's like Joe Biden is still in this place of trying to play nice with the Republicans. He's still dancing in this middle ground when it's clear that the Republicans are never going to support him or support anything that he wants to do. So it's like, at what point do you show that you do have a spine and start playing hardball? And he's really failed. And like, I just feel like we really could have moved past Trump if we had a strong candidate from the Democratic Party that came in, turned everything around. We moved past this COVID stuff. Our economy was strong. People had jobs. He delivered on a lot of the social infrastructure stuff, man. Look, there's a lot of people that voted in our last election that are not going to vote in this next election. I mean, I guess I can't call it facts because I can't predict the future. But when you look at where we were in the world as far as how many people in America were working at home, how many people that were usually caught up in the hustle and bustle of their daily lives had their whole lives halt. And now we're all in the house. And now we're all on the screens. People watch the news more during like 2020 summer than people have ever watched the news anytime before. Trust me, I'm in the media. I'm telling you this. So people voted, man. People came out, and there were historic numbers of that last vote. I don't think that we're going to see that many people vote in 2024. Like, it just doesn't seem likely that will happen. So how are you going to get people on the fence? People like me, that last election, that's the first time in my life that I've ever voted in a presidential election. And the reason why I'm probably hanging so hard on the COVID stuff is because that's how Biden got my vote. I knew he was Mr. Law and Order. I didn't trust this man as far as I could throw him. I didn't think he was going to do anything for Black folks. I didn't think he was going to do anything for immigrants. I didn't think he was going to deliver on a lot of these promises. But I did think that as a career politician, that he would have been able to maneuver a little bit better to get us through COVID. But you got a lot of Republican governors, guys like DeSantis out here who were really just, they worked so hard to make sure that the COVID numbers in their state stayed high. And you look at what they did with all of their COVID policies, man, they don't want to force people to wear masks. They want to force kids to come to school in person and not make them wear masks when they get there. I mean, they're doing all of these things that are going to keep the COVID numbers high. And as long as people have to breathe air and people are allowed to travel, it's just going to keep spreading. So it's just... Oh, Mama Walden just hit me with one, man. You gotta put that up, Cuddy. You gotta put that up because Mama Walden, she's probably right, man. You know what I'm saying? I respect the elders, and she said, if you don't vote, you will be back in Jim Crow. But to that, I say, we're already trending back to Jim Crow. Are we not? When you look at everything that's going on with like critical race theory, and I mean, it's like, yes, the Democratic Party is weak, but I don't feel like Joe Biden stepping in slowed our descent back into Jim Crow. I really, really don't. I don't see it. I just seen somebody else drop mass incarceration into the chat. Joe Biden is the grandfather of mass incarceration. You know what I'm saying? So like, I never expected him to come in as president. And in that, I did expect him to come in as president and rebuild the infrastructure. That's what I thought that I would see. I thought that in a lot of ways where Trump went too hard, Joe Biden would have had course correction. Andrew Vroom in the chat just dropped the border. That's a big one. I mean, look at the immigration policy that Joe Biden has ran. Look at these ICE detention centers, man. Joe Biden is putting more people in ICE detention centers than Donald Trump did. You know what I'm saying? We just had that situation at the border when all those black and brown looking folks was at the border, man. Joe Biden was trying to turn them all away. Look at the bombs that he's dropping abroad on black and brown nations, man. It's like Joe Biden didn't come in and turn things around. Joe Biden came in and literally couldn't do anything. He can't get past Manchin. He can't get past cinema. So he can't even do things within his own party, let alone fight against the Republican Party. So really, I mean, why would any of us vote Democrat ever again? These are a lot of the reasons why I never voted Democrat in the first place. I never believed that Democrats had black people's back. And as a black man in America, there's no politician that represents me. But I think that people rallied really hard against Trump to get Biden in. And by people, I mean black people. I'm talking Stacey Abrams. I'm talking about black women in southern states that were working their butts off to get folks to vote. They did all of that work to get Joe Biden in office. And if you pull up his Lift Every Voice plan and just go line for line, he literally hasn't delivered on anything. Wealth gap, education gap, student loans, healthcare. There's just so many things that he's dropped the ball on. So, and I'm not even trying to make this about Joe Biden like that, but we got to show you, run the clip, Trump. Just run the Trump clip, Cuddy, and then we'll come back and keep going.
We begin, though, with those new developments from former President Trump, who used his rally this weekend in Conroe, Texas, to tease not only a presidential run, but presidential pardons, this time for all January 6 rioters.
If I run and if I win, we will treat those people from January 6th fairly. We will treat them fairly. And if it requires pardons, we will give them pardons because they are being treated so unfairly.
Yo, not only is your boy Trump planning on coming back, he wants to pardon the January 6 rioters that end up in jail. Now, to be fair, will any of the January 6 rioters still be in jail in 2024? I don't really think so. It looks to me like most of these people just get slaps on the wrist. So I don't really see any long-term prison sentences coming down. But just the idea that he's stepping in front of microphones and cameras saying that he's willing to pardon the January 6 rioters, I mean, I want to say that it's insane, but it's really, really, really on brand with Trump. Nobody rides harder for their constituency than Trump. Nobody rides harder for their homies than Trump. When he says this, I believe it. Trump was giving out pardons like candy. I encourage all of you out there too. Google this. Google how many people Joe Biden has given presidential pardons to. Just go look it up, man. Joe Biden is the grandfather of mass incarceration, man. Joe Biden doesn't want to see anybody get out of jail, but it's really interesting that the Department of Justice isn't going a lot harder to put those January 6 rioters in jail. That was a blatant attack on democracy. That was a blatant attempt to overthrow an election. And not only are the rioters and insurrectionists out here getting slaps on the wrist, man, I think last time I checked, I saw 16 states make restrictive voting laws. So like it's happening, like the vote, like they're taking over the vote. What are we going to do? We just had the Voting Rights Act. What happened with that? It failed. Democrats couldn't even get that passed. So it's just, when I see that clip of Trump and I hear that rhetoric, man, and I'm looking around this country and I'm having conversations with real people out here, man, it doesn't look good for the Democrats in 2024. On the Republican side, if I had to guess, I'd probably say that DeSantis might run. But at this point, do I even think that DeSantis could beat Trump? I don't know, man. Trump plays real dirty. It's hard to say. But as far as Democrats go, if you know a Democrat that you honestly think has a snowball's chance of winning in the next presidential election, drop that in the chat, because I would love to dive into that. Because when I look at the Democratic Party, man, I got nothing. And I don't even know that Bernie's going to give it another go, man. Oh, Leon, man, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, we're going to have to figure something out. I don't know what it is, but we are going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to jump into some of these topics that are all focused on doing it for the culture. This clapback culture. I'll see y'all after the break.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Welcome back to Clapback Culture. I'm your host, Mike Davis. Jessie is not with us tonight. Sending a lot of love to Julia. Before we get into the next topic, though, man, I told y'all, today I want to be in the comments. I want to talk to y'all. Elizabeth Warren for president? You've got to be kidding me, man. Come on, Leon. I expect more from you, Leon. You're always here. I always respect your opinion. There's no way Elizabeth Warren will win. I don't think that she's ready to play dirty enough, man. Like, Trump is going to call her Pocahontas and he's going to make fun of all of that stuff again. And, she's just going to fold under the pressure. You want to beat Trump, man, you're going to have to play a little dirty, because he's going to play dirty. Warren's a good name to put out there. That's a progressive candidate, but I don't see it happening, man. Also, too, man, we really need a third political party, to be honest. I felt like that for a long time. I joke about the Pocahontas stuff. The real reason why I think that Elizabeth Warren wouldn't win, I just think that she's too progressive. I think that the reason why we kept passing on Bernie Sanders, like Bernie, we could have had Bernie, but they put up Hillary. We could have had Bernie, but they put up Joe Biden. I think that the Democratic Party is really is kind of split right now between the moderate Dems and then the progressive Dems. And then you got Democrats like Manchin and Sinema, who aren't even Democrats. Darnell, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. But, it's hard. Like, I'm not knocking Elizabeth Warren on her politics. I'm knocking her on how progressive she is and where we are as a country. The racial awakening of 2020 feels like it was decades ago, man. Like, we're not even in this racial awakening anymore, man. Look around the country. Look at what's happening. Like, we didn't get anything from this quote unquote racial awakening. We didn't get any legislation. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act failed. I just seen Joe Biden the other day on TV talking about giving more money to the police. You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about defund or reallocate funding from polices to go support community. Joe Biden's out here talking about, nah, we're just going to give more money to the police. Let them decide how to train themselves like we've always done. But the thing is, Joe Biden is speaking to the constituency, man. Like he's speaking to a specific set of Democrats. I don't know that a progressive candidate is going to step up and actually be able to win. I don't know that the Democrats would even allow a progressive candidate to be their candidate for president. So we'll see how that goes. Mama Walden, you are hilarious. I would be willing to bet you a dinner at communion. Trump will not spend not one night in jail. Mama Walden, if you take that bet, drop it in the chat. I would love to take you to communion and if I leave, but yeah. And you're right, Mama Walden. Put that up there. Many progressives. Yes. Many progressives are racist. That's part of the reason why I didn't vote. And it's not because I want to slide back into Jim Crow. It's because I don't trust these candidates to care about me. And if you don't care about me, you're not about to get my vote. And Andrew Vroom, I see your comment. You know we're going to talk about the NFL. We just got a couple of topics that we get to before we get to this racism in NFL. Right now, I got to bring my guy Cuddy in for this next topic, man. This is a big one for our community, man. We got more than 12 HBCU campuses were targeted with bomb threats. Thank you for putting this overlay. I mean, look at this, man. Look at this map, y'all. These are crazy. And this is the first day of Black History Month. And I'm going to toss it to you, Cuddy, but I want to say that this isn't even an isolated incident. We had 8 HBCUs on Monday receive bomb threats. And then going all the way back to January 5th, we had HBCUs receive bomb threats on that day as well. So, Cuddy, you went to an HBCU, man. What's your thoughts here?
Even before speaking on going to an HBCU, this whole wave of bomb threats actually hits home because my little sister is a part of that experience. My little sister is currently a sophomore at Xavier University. And I believe it was Monday. She hit the family group chat and was like, hey, you guys, just letting you know that I'm fine, that our school got a bomb threat, so they canceled class. I'm about to go back to sleep. But it's like, she played it off so smooth, but the fact that that's like real life and that's a reality for her, for that to be something to experience, not only just at schools, because I mean, yeah, you have that caliber of events or like things to happen at PWIs as well, but just with the whole climate and this like the world that we're in, and the fact that's like hearing something like that and knowing that my baby sister is down there, like, yeah, it's a threat, and yeah, have we seen the bomb actually go off at one of these schools? No, but the fact that you don't know what people are capable of, so I wouldn't put something like that past anybody, And so I just be like, dang, like I can't even get to her that fast. She's all the way in New Orleans. I'm up here. So it's definitely something to like on the back of my mind that I worry about. As far as going to an HBCU, bro, just knowing that the things that like the culture of an HBCU and the things that is cultivated and what's the society of an HBCU has going on, it's like it doesn't. A bomb threat and you bringing that over here doesn't even correlate to me. Like, how do those two things even cross paths, bro? And it just goes back to like, it don't just racism and the things that we've been through just as Black people, as a culture, like to have to still go through these things, bro, hundreds of years later, it's just not cool to me. And it's like definitely something that you feel me needs to be addressed and shouldn't be taken lightly. It needs to be followed up on and honestly find the root source of these bomb threats. Because the fact of having in that short amount of time, having that many different HBCUs be threatened, it has to be some correlation between those threats going around, like whether it be the parties that know each other or it's one single party doing all of them. So something like that with the technology that we have and tracking down people, the same way the government can go find all those people that did the PPP loan, they can do some type of technology or work to find out who are making these threats, bro. So I feel like we need to use our resources and our tools wisely, and this is not something that needs to be taken lightly.
Hey, thank you, Cuddy, man. I'm gonna let you go. I
You already
appreciate
know.
you jumping on and saying that, man. And
Yeah.
just to drive it home, man. First and foremost, man. Shout out to little sis. I'm glad to hear that she's doing her thing, man. But
Yes.
it feels targeted, man. It's too many for it to be random, and it's also happened on other dates. And I can't let this topic slide without pointing out the fact that the reason why we have HBCUs is because white folks didn't want us going to their schools. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Like, we had to have our own schools because they didn't want us in their schools. Now that we got our own schools, this is what white folks are still doing, man. Like, this is their kids, man. Their kids in college trying to go to school, learn, do their thing. They're living through this pandemic. They got all of these pressures anyway. And to just have all of these bomb threats happen, kids can't feel safe. You can't feel safe. And for me, from the outside looking in, I know that, one bomb threat to one school might be random. It might be somebody just messing around. But having this many, I mean, put the map back up one more time, Cuddy. Look at how many schools that this is on the same day. That just happens to be the first day of Black History Month, while our social climate is fighting against critical race theory. It doesn't feel like a coincidence to me. It definitely feels like more than one single party. So, shout out to all the kids out there just trying to go to school, get an education, and be safe. My heart goes out to all of y'all, and I sincerely hope that there isn't any actual bombs. And as of now, we haven't found any. But we got to move on, man. We got to move on. We got a real interesting one right here. I'm peeping the chat. I know y'all want to get into the NFL, and Mike Davis is gonna have something for that. But before we get there, we gotta stop right here. We gotta talk about Whoopi Goldberg. Cuddy, is this an overlay? Okay, so ABC suspends Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks over her Holocaust events. All right, let's drop that. Bring me back, Cuddy. I need to talk to the people. So, what Whoopi Goldberg said was that the Holocaust was not about race. She didn't just say this once. Like, she said it, and she said it with her chest, and she meant it. She actually went on Stephen Colbert on the first, and she reiterated it, man. And this is a tough one for me, man. This is a tough one for me. And I'm going to tell you why it's a tough one for me, because I disagree with what Whoopi Goldberg said. But my goodness, do I understand why she said it. And just because I understand why she said it doesn't mean she's right. Doesn't mean that I say it. Darnell, that's how you feel. There's a heck of a lot of people out there that wanted Whoopi to be fired. And it's ironic to me, too, because the people that I see calling for Whoopi Goldberg to be fired are the same people that get so pissed off at cancel culture. Those same people on the right, those same Fox News media talking heads that get so pissed off at cancel culture are out here demanding that Whoopi Goldberg be canceled. It is so disingenuous. But I do want to talk about what she said, man. So first and foremost, the Nazis believed that they were the superior race. It's hard to say that the Holocaust wasn't about racism when it was driven by the belief that one group had racial superiority. I think what Whoopi said was that, in her view, it was about ethnicity and not about race. But if you put yourself in the shoes of a Jewish person, and the Holocaust happened, I mean, sorry, I'm reading the comments as I'm talking. I understand, but I want to talk about where Whoopi was coming from, because race is a social construct, man. Like, there's no real merit to race. On a biological level, when you look at race, some people have more melanin in their skin than others, but outside of that, man, humans are just humans. And if you look at our DNA, it all goes back to a common ancestor who we all know was a woman in Africa. But the idea of race is very important. And I see Catherine's comment, and I also saw what she said on Stephen Colbert. And I'm not willing to go as far as to say that I agree with her, but I do want to break down for people where I think she's coming from. As a Black person in America, we don't have a choice, man. Like Mike Davis can't be white passing. I got brown skin and dreadlock hair. Like I'm Black. When I walk around, I'm Black. When I go to that job interview, I'm Black. When you know what I'm saying? When I get pulled over by the police, I'm Black. Jewish people look white, man. It's just a fact. And it's crazy. To me personally, like if I saw 10 white people just standing right in front of me right now, I promise you, I would not be able to tell you who's Jewish and who's not. To be honest, for a long time growing up, I thought being Jewish was a religion, not your race. I had to get older and become more informed and, you know what I'm saying, and go through my own learning process to actually understand the fact that Jewish people do look at themselves like a race. I think it gets a little deeper, though, when we're talking about Whoopi Goldberg, because Whoopi Goldberg works in Hollywood, man. And you got to look at the power dynamics that are at play in Hollywood. Whoopi Goldberg is a Black woman, a heavyweight Black woman with dreadlocks named Whoopi working in Hollywood, man. You don't know how hard it had to be for Whoopi in Hollywood. And when she's in Hollywood, who does she see in all the positions of power, man? It's white Jewish people. When Whoopi Goldberg is looking at race, she's looking at race through the lens of oppression. She's looking at her race as a Black woman, as the oppressed class. We know that the Holocaust happened. We know how horrible the Holocaust was. I'm not here to swap trauma stories, but I am here to say, if you look at America and you look at where Jewish people stand in the social hierarchy of America, I understand why Whoopi said what she said. I'm not going to say that I agree. I'm not going to say that I would never say the same thing. But I do think that the 2-week suspension was actually too much, to be honest. I think that this is something that could have been discussed. I think that this is something that could have been treated as a learning moment. I feel like I watched Meghan McCain say all sort of wild stuff on The View, and I wasn't seeing her get suspended. She ended up quitting her job on her own. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's a fair conversation to have, and I think that there's a lot of layers. I think that I could take it to another place, man. I was having a conversation with my partner the other day about somebody. It was an older person, and they said something, and Darnell, I see you in the chats, bro. I can't take it there, but I see you, bro. I see you. But I was talking to my partner, man. I was talking to my girl, and she said something about somebody, and they was Irish, and I was like, man, they're Irish. And she was like, okay, but they're still white. And I said to her, they're white now. And what I meant by that, again, is going back to race as that social construct, man. There was a time when these immigrants, these immigrants that were Irish, these immigrants that were Polish, man, they wasn't white people, man. They wasn't. They had to become white people. Now they get to be white people and they get to walk around with their white privilege. But there was a time when they couldn't. And I only say that because our ideas around race and how we view race are actually extremely fluid. It changes. It changes. The only thing that hasn't changed really is where Black people stand. We haven't been fluid. We've been Black since we got here. We was Negroes then, and we're going to be that for who knows how long. So when I hear Whoopi Goldberg say that, I understand where she's coming from. She's coming from a place of, to her, race has a connotation that's linked with oppression. And in her experiences, she's not seeing the present day, right here, right now, oppression. She also felt that it was an ethnicity and not a race. So I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to put that out there. I'm peeping the comments. Yeah, man. I feel like y'all's with me, man. But man, we're running out of time, man. I didn't think that we was gonna run up against it like this, man. What we're gonna do, we're gonna take a real quick break, and then when we come back, I'm gonna bring Cuddy on, and we're gonna talk about this NFL story. I'll see y'all real soon.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Welcome back, Cuddy. You're here with me, man. So, man, I'm gonna give you the choice, man. Where we going right now, Cuddy? We going ASAP Rocky or we going NFL?
Nah, let's go NFL first because that's a little more serious topic, and then ASAP because it might be a little comedic with that one because I got some things to say about that. So
we're going to do that, but real fast before we do that, I do got to say Leon put up a comment. I think it summed up our last conversation very well. Leon said that he thinks Black people were talking about race and Jewish people were talking about the Holocaust. That is the disconnect. There is a disconnect. We got to find a way to come together. Let's talk about the NFL. Former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores is suing everybody, man. He's suing the NFL. He's suing the Miami Dolphins. He's suing the New York Giants. And he is suing the Denver Broncos for discrimination in the hiring practices. And before we get into that, and I promise I'm going to pass it to you, Cuddy, I think that it's really important to explain one thing. As soon as this lawsuit came out, first day of Black History Month, NFL released a statement immediately, probably an hour later. Crazy how fast it was. They said that there was no merit to Brian Flores' claims. Funny how they said that there's no merit to these claims when you gave yourselves a whole hour to do an investigation. There was no investigation. NFL, you're tripping. Now, you can't say that there's no merit to his claims because the NFL has this little thing called the Rooney Rule. Before I toss it to you, Cuddy, I just want to explain the Rooney Rule to everybody out there that might not know. So the Rooney Rule is an NFL policy that requires teams to interview ethnic minority candidates for head coaching and senior football operation jobs. It's named after former Pittsburgh Steelers owner Dan Rooney, who was the chairman of the league's diversity committee. Now, the Rooney Rule was created in 2002. It was created in 2002.
Yeah.
Johnny Cochran. That's right, y'all. The Johnny Cochran, he put together a report in 2002 after the firing of head coach Tony Dungy from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Dennis Green from the Minnesota Vikings. Tony Dungy was coming off a winning season when he got fired, and Green had 10 years of winning seasons. One season where he lost, he got fired. Johnny Cochran dropped this damning report. It went over the NFL, and it showed that Black coaches have a higher winning percentage than white coaches, yet Black coaches are more likely to be fired than white coaches, and they are less likely to be hired than white coaches. And at the time, in 2002, when the Rooney Rule was implemented, the NFL had only had 6 Black head coaches since they became a league in 1922. Right here, right now, today, the NFL has 1 Black head coach in a league that is 70% Black. Cuddy, what you make of all this?
After you made that comment, that's actually what I was going to bring up, that it is actually, in fact, only 1. And what shocks me as well is that there is 5 teams that now have openings for a job. And for one, not one of them are any type of minority at all. And out of all 5, 1 coach had 2 years of experience of head coaching at all. The rest had 0. That doesn't make any sense to me, bro. And then just the story in general, it actually hits me a little different because, I be in Miami. You feel me? My brother plays for the Dolphins. So that was his actual coach. So I definitely want to chop it up with him to get his take. But on this topic, recently I watched some interviews about it, seeing social media and whatnot. So I don't want to speak too much, or you can't quote me because, I don't like to speak on things I don't know too much about. But what I will say, and from what I have seen, is that there is allegations of I forgot what organization it was, but to offer the coach money to like lose games. So then that way it puts them in a better position for draft picks and whatnot. And it's funny that that's something that they would do, because when I watched the recent interview on the podcast called The Pivot, hosted by Ryan Clark, Shannon Crowder, and Fred Taylor, they had Coach Hugh Jackson from there. And if we know that, we know he was at the Cincinnati Bengals. He was at the Browns, and what's crazy, and the Raiders. So he started out at the Raiders when 8-8 had a winning season. Boom. Then he goes to Cleveland, or no, not Cleveland. What's the team before that? The Bengals. Yep. He has another winning season there, and then from there, that's when he went on that one for 31. But the thing about it is, he was saying how he was evaluated, and like typically how the process goes. Like if you do get let go from that job, it's a funnel system. You usually drop down to like a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. Like he didn't get any of that. And it's like what his whole thing was, you can't say that I don't know how to coach the game or get a group of men to win games if the fact that in a matter of a year time span, like I was just in Cincy a year ago. So you mean to tell me that it's me and not more so the players or the system that I have around me? Because he also went on to explain how that control of being able to pick the pieces that you need or be able to have that counsel with the upper general management and whatnot. Like, all right, even if I can't handpick this player or these players that I need, let's consultate so I can express to you what our team currently needs, what I'm looking for, so you can then gather that information. Even if I'm not going to be in that room when you make the decision, you can at least consider my opinions and my thoughts and what I think this team is going to need and what's going to help best fit my system, because I'm leading your team. Okay. So it's almost like in a situation where it's like you're already set up to really fail.
No,
like,
literally, they
are that. And if you think about it, the way that they assess in like black coaches versus white coaches, you only have really one chance for real. A white coach can go years for losing, and just because of like maybe who they know or the type of connections that they got, they're not going to really say anything. So the fact that you're already walking on eggshells, how can you fully be comfortable to fully do your job? If you know that, right, almost like on some, remember the Titans, they threatened him. They gave him the job. Then literally after the first game, hey, I'm just letting you know that if you lose any game this season, you're getting fired immediately. Like, how do you put that type of pressure on someone, you know? So I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to me. And I just honestly feel like it honestly brings me to that situation where they give us like crumbs and we get satisfied with it. The fact that there's only one black coach, and the fact that majority of the NFL, when you talk about players, is black people, how is it that there's not more representation on the admin or across the board when it comes to coaching staff? But one thing I would give some praise to is the head coach in the staffing at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in those leadership positions, they're led by black and African-American people. So it also shows as an example that we're very well capable of leading. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's not cool, bro. I think that they definitely are using it as like that token black coach up there so they can shut us up so we don't say anything. So you can't say, oh, we don't hire minority coaches, when it's like, yeah, you hire them, but look at the situation that you hire them in. It's almost like the system's geared for them to get in and get out of there, you know?
Yeah, well, one thing too that's interesting is the Rooney Rule is named after Dan Rooney. He was the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We keep saying that there's only one black head coach.
He's at the Pittsburgh
Steelers. And on top of that, the Pittsburgh Steelers have only had 3 head coaches in the history of their organization. They don't fire coaches. So they brought Mike Tomlin in. He was not a Rooney Rule hire. They made that clear. They also interviewed Ron Rivera, who's Hispanic. Mike Tomlin got the job off merit, and he's actually done a really good job. I think what really bothers me about this Brian Flores situation is that the Miami Dolphins thought that they were going to be terrible. He came in and the roster was terrible. Then they told him that they would give him $100K per game to just lose. Brian Flores didn't want to lose. What they really wanted to do was the same thing that they did to Hugh Jackson. There's reports now that the Browns were paying Hugh Jackson $50K a game to lose. They wanted Flores to lose so that they could fire him once they got the draft picks and the team got good. The problem with that is
you put a white coach right in there, so then it fits that.
And Flores started winning. And that's the crazy thing about the Dolphins. Brian Flores had 2 back-to-back winning seasons. Those are the Dolphins' first back-to-back winning seasons in 20 years. How do you fire
a guy to witness though? So I'm definitely praising that.
Now, I gotta ask you though, Cuddy, I got a question for you. What do you make of this? Because part of his lawsuit is discrimination in the hiring process because he felt that these Rooney Rule interviews were a sham. People have been calling these Rooney Rule interviews a sham for years. It's very documented. A lot of writers have written about it. It's a very, very hard thing to prove. In this case, we got Bill Belichick, soon to be Hall of Fame coach from the New England Patriots. He accidentally sent a text message to the wrong Brian. He sent Brian Flores a message that was meant for Brian. I don't have his last name in front of me. This white Brian interviewed for the head coaching job of the New York Giants. The New York Giants were going to hire him because of the Rooney Rule. They had to give a black guy an interview. They were going to give it to Brian Flores. Before the interview happened, he gets a text message from Bill Belichick congratulating him on getting the Giants job. Brian Flores is like, what do you mean? I didn't. How did I get the job? I don't interview until Thursday. Then they realized Bill Belichick made a mistake, sent it to the wrong Brian, and it looks like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was when Brian Flores was like, nah.
I got to say something. Yeah.
But my question for you is, does Brian Flores now become Colin Kaepernick? Do you think that he's going to be
yes.
Or do you think he'll work again?
Yes, but the fact he knows that yes, for sure. And what's crazy that you brought that up, because now you just gave me context, because I've seen memes and stuff on Twitter like, oh, Bill Belichick's phone is only like 2 names now. And I'm like, dang, where did that come from? So the fact that you say that, bro, it puts everything together. But to answer your question, yes, this is definitely going to give him that Kaepernick treatment. But it also, we can point out and say this, he knew that going into it. He even said this very well cost me my coaching job and what I love to do and what I feel like I'm put on this earth to do. So with the fact that he already knew that sacrifice, I feel like it's going to be more beneficial for him taking this, being that sacrificial lamb right now. And the fact that he understands that, and I feel like he knows exactly what he's doing. As far as what his plan may be, because at the end of the day, you don't do something like that could potentially blackball you in your own career path without knowing that there's a bigger picture that I'm sacrificing for. So although he might be taking this bullet, this might also bring up a lot of conversations and make a lot of different policies and rub some other people the wrong way. We're like, dang, maybe we do need to reconsider how we do things, and we can start seeing a lot more minority coaches and just staffing in general come in from this years from now, which I hope is the case because, yeah, as you can see with 32 teams and you only have 1 black coach, but out of those 32 teams, damn near 60% plus is black on your roster. So how does that work?
No, you're absolutely right. And I know that we're out of time, y'all. We'll definitely come back to this topic, man. It's a big one. Man, I had another note, and we don't got time.
We talk about Rihanna. Oh,
man, look, we got to do it. We got to do it next time, y'all. I apologize. We are at the hour. That is our show, man. I had so much fun kicking it with y'all. I appreciate you. I am Mike Davis. You can find me at the South Seattle Emerald. You can also find me on Converge morning update show Wednesday mornings around 11:08. Man, they usually get me in pretty fast. I have a lot of fun with those guys. Cuddy, what you gonna be up to, man? Where can people find you?
Man, you guys can find me on Instagram at Cuddy the Sensei. That's my main platform that I use. We got a lot of things going right now, whether it be Converge. We got some new merch coming, so I know you guys keep seeing that commercial that I'm playing. So you guys can definitely expect a new commercial with some new drip once we get that stuff going, bro. And yeah, we just getting after it, bro. You can, like I said, you can follow me at Cuddy the Sensei on IG.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's our show for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate all y'all in the chats. Y'all came strong tonight. Had a lot of fun. Good night, y'all. Peace.